She didn't cry. That was the part nobody expected. When the hotel manager grabbed her arm and said, loud enough for the entire lobby to hear, "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises." Lydia Okafor did not cry. She did not raise her voice. She did not reach for her phone to film anything. She simply looked at his hand on her sleeve. That thick, pale hand with the gold cufflink catching the light of the chandelier above them, and she waited until he removed it on his own. Then she picked up her canvas tote bag, the one with the fraying strap she'd been meaning to replace for 2 years, and she walked out through the revolving door without looking back. The bellman near the entrance watched her go. He was 23, a kid named Troy who'd had the job for 4 months, and something about the way the woman left, not rushed, not humiliated, just quiet in a way that felt heavier than anger, made him uncomfortable in a way he couldn't name. He would think about it later. He would think about it for a long time. Lydia had arrived at the Alderton Grand at 11:15 on the Tuesday morning. The Alderton Grand was the kind of hotel that existed to make certain people feel that they had arrived, not just at a building, but at a version of themselves they had always deserved. The lobby had 14-foot ceilings and Italian marble floors and flower arrangements that cost more per week than Troy made in a month. The guests moved through it slowly, deliberately, the way people move when they know they belong somewhere. Lydia did not look like she belonged. She had flown in from Atlanta on a red-eye, and she was wearing what she always wore when she traveled alone with no meetings on the schedule: dark jeans, a gray crew-neck sweatshirt, worn white sneakers, and the canvas tote bag. Her hair was natural, pulled back loosely. She wore no jewelry except for a small watch with the scratched face that she had owned since she was 27 and refused to replace because it had been a gift from her mother the year before her mother died. She was 44 years old. She had started her first company in a studio apartment in Baltimore with $1,100 and a laptop with a cracked screen. She had sold that company 8 years later for $63 million. She had started a second company. That one she had not sold. None of that was visible on her face or her clothes or the canvas tote bag with the fraying strap. She looked like a woman who had been traveling all night and wanted a room. The front desk of the Alderton Grand was staffed that morning by a woman named Christine, who had worked there for 6 years and believed, with the quiet certainty of someone who had never examined the belief too closely, that she was very good at reading people. She looked at Lydia and she saw the sweatshirt and the sneakers and the tote bag, and she made a decision before Lydia reached the counter. "Can I help you?" Christine said. The words were correct. The tone was not. "I have a reservation," Lydia said. "Okafor, Lydia Okafor." Christine typed the name slowly. She looked at her screen. She looked at Lydia. She looked at her screen again. "I'm not seeing anything under that name." "It would have been booked through my assistant," Lydia said. "Could be under Thornton Group. That's our corporate account." Christine typed again. The pause that followed was a half-second too long. "I do see something here," she said, "but I'm going to need to verify the card on file before I can proceed." "Of course," Lydia said. She reached into the tote bag and produced a matte black card and set it on the counter. Christine picked it up. She looked at it the way people look at things when they are trying to find a reason to reject them. Then she swiped it and handed it back without making eye contact. "Your room won't be ready until 3, Christine said. "Check-in is at 3. "I understand," Lydia said. "Is there somewhere I can leave my bag while I wait? I have a call at noon, and I'd like to use the business center." "The business center is for guests. I am a guest." "Checked-in guests." Lydia looked at her. "I've just given you my card. I have a confirmed reservation. I would like to leave my bag and use the business center for an hour." Christine smiled the smile of someone who has decided they are following policy. "I'm sorry for the inconvenience. You're welcome to wait in the lobby." Lydia took her bag back. She found a chair near the window, one of those deep velvet chairs that the Alderton Grand placed at intervals as if the lobby were a living room, and she sat down and opened her laptop and took her call at noon. She was on that call for 40 minutes. It was a call with 3 partners at a private equity firm in New York who were trying, and failing, to hide how badly they wanted her to sign with them. She was calm and precise and said very little. By the end of the call, the lead partner was laughing too loudly at things that weren't particularly funny, and Lydia had agreed to nothing. She closed the laptop and went to the small cafe adjacent to the lobby and ordered a coffee and sat for another 20 minutes reading on her phone. She was not angry. She had been here before, not this specific lobby, not this specific version of a woman looking at her sweatshirt and deciding she didn't belong, but the texture of it was familiar. She had learned a long time ago that anger spent in the wrong direction was just energy wasted. At 12:50, the hotel manager came to her table. His name was Warren Aldrich. He was 51, broad-shouldered, dressed in a charcoal suit with a pocket square that matched nothing. He had been the general manager of the Alderton Grand for 9 years, and he had developed, over those 9 years, a particular instinct for what he called maintaining the character of the property. He would not have been able to explain exactly what he meant by that if pressed. He did not press himself. "Excuse me," he said. Lydia looked up from her phone. "I've been informed that you've been in our lobby for some time," Warren said. "This cafe is intended for hotel guests." "I am a hotel guest," Lydia said. "I checked in about an hour ago. My room isn't ready yet." "I don't have a record of that." "Then your records are incomplete. My name is Lydia Okafor. You can check with Christine at the front desk. She has my card on file." Warren looked at her for a moment. Something flickered behind his eyes. Not doubt exactly, not reconsideration, but the faintest awareness that he might be standing on uncertain ground. He ignored it. "I'm going to have to ask you to wait outside," he said. "We have a private event beginning shortly, and we need to prepare the space." Lydia looked around the cafe. There were 4 other people in it. None of them were being asked to wait outside. 2 of them were not hotel guests. She had watched them come in from the street 20 minutes ago and order pastries. She said nothing about that. She looked at Warren Aldrich for a long, still moment. The way her mother used to look at things she was deciding whether to bother with. Then Warren did something that she had not expected. He reached out and put his hand on her arm. "Ma'am," he said. Loud enough. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises." The cafe went quiet. The 4 other people looked. A couple in coordinated resort wear near the window turned to watch. The young man behind the counter froze with a portafilter in his hand. Troy, the bellman, passing through on his way to the elevator bank, stopped walking. Lydia looked at Warren's hand on her sleeve. She waited. He removed it. She picked up her canvas tote bag. She walked out through the lobby and through the revolving door and out onto the street without looking back. She called her assistant from the sidewalk. "Cancel the room at the Alderton," she said. "Find me something else." "Everything okay?" "Yes," Lydia said. "Also, pull the contract file for the Alderton Group. The full one. I want to review it this afternoon." A pause. Her assistant had worked for her for 4 years and knew what it meant when Lydia asked to review a contract file without further explanation. "I'll have it ready in an hour," he said. She checked into a different hotel 6 blocks away. It was smaller and quieter, and the woman at the front desk smiled at her like she was a person. And Lydia felt the muscles in her shoulders drop half an inch without her noticing. She showered and changed and sat at the desk by the window with her coffee and the contract file her assistant had sent. The Alderton Group, parent company of the Alderton Grand and 11 other luxury properties across the Southeast, had been in preliminary talks with Thornton Capital, Lydia's investment arm, for 14 months. They were seeking a strategic partner to fund a major expansion, 6 new properties, 3 international, total projected investment of $280 million over 5 years. Thornton Capital had been the frontrunner. The Alderton Group's board knew it and had been acting accordingly. Lunches, site tours, a weekend in Charleston that Lydia had not attended because she did not attend things designed to flatter her into decisions. She read the file for 90 minutes. She made 3 phone calls. She sent 1 email. The email was 4 sentences long. It was addressed to the Alderton Group CEO, a man named Charles Fenwick, whom she had met twice at industry events, and found to be the kind of person who was impressive until you spent more than an hour with him. The email informed him that Thornton Capital was withdrawing from consideration as a strategic partner for the Alderton Group expansion and would not be pursuing the relationship further. It gave no reason. It required no response. She sent it at 4:17 in the afternoon. By 9 the next morning, she was on a plane back to Atlanta. She did not know about Monica until later. Monica Reyes was 26, a junior event coordinator at the Alderton Grand, and she had been in the lobby that Tuesday morning setting up signage for an afternoon conference. She had seen Lydia come in. She had watched Christine at the front desk. She had watched Warren Aldrich walk across the lobby with his jaw set in that particular way he had when he'd already decided something. And she had watched Lydia leave. Something about it bothered Monica in the specific way that things bother you when you recognize them. She had grown up in a neighborhood in Charlotte where certain stores followed her mother around when they shopped. She knew what that looked like from the outside. She knew what it looked like from the inside, too. She went back to setting up her signage. But she kept thinking about the woman's face. Not the expression on it. Lydia had kept her expression neutral, but something else. Something about the stillness of it. The specific quality of someone who had decided not to spend energy on something that didn't deserve it. On her lunch break, Monica looked up the name. She wasn't sure why. She had heard Lydia say it at the front desk, Okafor. Thornton Group. She typed it into her phone. The first result was a Forbes profile from 2 years ago. The headline read, Lydia Okafor built a $500 million empire from a Baltimore studio apartment. She's not done yet. Monica sat in the break room for a long moment, looking at the photo that accompanied the article. It was a professional photo, Lydia in a boardroom setting. A different version of the same face Monica had watched walk out through the revolving door 2 hours ago. She read the article, then she read it again. Lydia Okafor had founded Thornton Capital after selling her first tech company. Thornton Capital managed a portfolio valued at approximately $460 million. Among its holdings were strategic investments in 7 hotel groups across the United States, 2 of which were direct competitors of the Alderton Group. The article described her as one of the most influential figures in hospitality and commercial real estate that most people in hospitality and commercial real estate have never heard of, and quoted a partner at a major investment bank as saying she was the kind of investor that every brand-name hospitality group is quietly trying to get in front of. Monica put her phone down. She picked it up again. She sat there for a while. She did not say anything to anyone that day, but the next morning, when the news started moving, quietly at first, then faster, she understood exactly what had happened. The announcement came through industry channels on Wednesday morning. Thornton Capital had withdrawn from the Alderton Group partnership discussions. No statement, no explanation. Just the withdrawal, confirmed by a source close to the matter, which was picked up by 2 trade publications by 10 a.m. By noon, the Alderton Group stock had dropped 4%. By 3 in the afternoon, Charles Fenwick was on the phone with his board. By 5 o'clock, 2 other potential investors who had been watching the Thornton Capital talks as a signal had quietly indicated they were reconsidering their interest. No one at the Alderton Grand knew why. Warren Aldrich had not connected the woman in the sweatshirt with anything. Christine at the front desk had not connected her either. They went about their Tuesday and their Wednesday as they always did, and the news reached them the way bad news usually reaches people who caused it, sideways, with no apparent connection to anything they'd done. It was Charles Fenwick who made the connection. He had met Lydia Okafor at a conference in Miami 18 months ago. He remembered her because she had asked him a question during a panel discussion, one of those questions that seemed simple until you tried to answer it and realized it had a floor you hadn't anticipated. He had liked her. He had been the one to authorize the approach to Thornton Capital. He had been looking forward to this deal. When he received her email, 4 sentences, no reason given, he sat with it for a long time before he did anything else. Then he pulled the guest records for the Alderton Grand for Tuesday of that week. He called the front desk manager. He asked some questions. He called Warren Aldrich at 6:15 on Wednesday evening. That call lasted 8 minutes. Warren's pocket square was in his jacket pocket when the call started. He was turning it over and over in his hands by the time it ended. Lydia was in a meeting on Thursday morning when the call came through from Charles Fenwick. She let it go to voicemail. He called again in the afternoon, and she answered because she had decided she would answer once and say what needed to be said, and that would be the end of it. "Lydia," Charles said. He had the voice of someone who was accustomed to situations resolving in his favor and was not accustomed to the sensation of watching one not resolve that way. "I owe you an apology. A significant one. What happened at the Grand on Tuesday was... It should not have happened. The way you were treated was unacceptable, and I take full responsibility." Lydia listened. She let him finish. Then she said, "I appreciate you calling. I want you to know that we've taken immediate action. Warren Aldrich has been placed on administrative leave pending a full review. Christine at the front desk has been..." "Charles," Lydia said. He stopped. "I'm not interested in what you've done to your staff," she said. "That's your business to manage." A pause. "I understand. I was hoping..." "The decision about the partnership stands," she said. "I want to be straightforward with you about that, because I think straightforwardness is something we both respect. It's not a negotiating position. It's not something I'll reconsider with the right offer. I made the decision and it's final." Another pause, longer this time. "Can I ask why? Specifically?" Lydia thought about the hand on her arm, the lobby going quiet, the 4 other people in the cafe who watched and went back to their coffee, Troy the bellman, frozen near the elevator bank. "You can," she said. "But I think you already know." He did. That was the hardest part of it. He already knew. They spoke for another few minutes about other things, the industry, a conference they were both attending in the fall. When she hung up, she sat for a moment in the quiet of her office, looking at the scratched face of her mother's watch. She was not satisfied exactly. Satisfaction felt too small for what she felt. It was something more complicated. The particular weight of having held a line you'd drawn a long time ago, in a studio apartment in Baltimore, when you were 26 and had $1,100 and decided that there were certain costs you would not pay and certain things you would not become, no matter what it cost you. That decision had cost her things over the years: rooms she had been made to leave, tables she had not been seated at, elevators that rose without her. She had paid the cost every time and she had never fully stopped feeling it. But she had also built something. She had built it in the specific way that things get built when you have nothing to lose and a very clear sense of what you are worth. Not what anyone told you were worth, but what you had decided, in the quiet of your own knowledge of yourself, that you would accept. Monica Reyes left the Alderton Grand 6 weeks later. Not because of what had happened, exactly, or not only because of that. She had been thinking about leaving for a while, but watching what happened in the week after Tuesday, the internal meetings and the policy reviews and the consultants brought in to talk about unconscious bias as if the problem were a gap in training rather than a gap in something harder to fix. She felt the futility of it settle in her chest like a stone. She took a job at a smaller boutique hotel group. The GM there was a woman who had been in the business for 30 years and had the specific quality of someone who had learned everything the hard way and was not in the habit of forgetting it. On Monica's first day, the GM told her something that she would keep for a long time. "The guest in front of you is always the most important person in this building," the GM said. "Not because of what they can do for us. Because they chose to be here. That's always worth something." Monica thought about the woman in the gray sweatshirt, who had walked out of a revolving door without looking back, and decided that she agreed. Lydia did not think about the Alderton Grand very much after that week. She had other things to think about. The portfolio was expanding. There were deals to close and meetings to take and decisions that only she could make, and she made them with the same calm that had taken her most of her adult life to build. In November of that year, she spoke at a conference in Washington on the future of impact investing. She was the keynote. 300 people in a ballroom, the kind of crowd that shuffled their papers and checked their phones before speakers they had not heard of, and went very still for speakers they had. They went still for Lydia. She spoke for 35 minutes without notes, She talked about capital and access, and what it meant to build something in a system that was not designed with you in mind. She talked about the distance between the version of success that gets photographed and the version that happens at midnight in a studio apartment when you're so tired you can't feel your hands. But you keep going because you have decided, for reasons that belong only to you, that you are not stopping. She did not mention the Alderton Grand. She did not mention Warren Aldrich or Christine or the hand on her sleeve or the lobby going quiet. She did not need to. The people in that room who understood what she was talking about understood it completely, and the ones who didn't would spend a long time afterward wondering what they'd missed. At the end, someone in the third row raised their hand, a young woman, maybe 25, with a notebook open on her lap and the look of someone who had been writing things down all morning. "How do you handle it?" the young woman asked. "When people underestimate you, when they look at you and they don't see, when they just don't see you at all." The room waited. Lydia looked at the young woman for a moment. She thought about the scratched face of the watch on her wrist. She thought about her mother, who had worked 2 jobs her whole life and still found ways to be generous, and who had told her once, when Lydia was maybe 8 years old, eating cereal at a kitchen table in a small apartment in Baltimore, that the most important thing was not what other people decided about you. The most important thing was what you decided about yourself in the moments when no one was watching and there was nothing to prove and you were just you, choosing. "I let them," Lydia said. The room was quiet. "I let them underestimate me. I don't carry their idea of me. That's too heavy. I put it down, and I walk out, and I go build something." She paused. The numbers speak for themselves. They always do. The young woman in the third row stopped writing for a moment. Then she wrote it down.